Let's see. I think I'm ready at this point. That's off. That's off. That's apparently on. Is that good? Good enough. Whatever. Going for it. Hello, Shadowcat back. It's been a morning so far. I was literally just going live. I had already hit the go live button, and it's like, wait a minute, where's my spreadsheet? Oh, that's right, I rebooted my computer. All of my browsers got turned off. All of my spreadsheets got put away. I almost never reboot my computer, so that's like, oh crap, now I gotta reopen everything. So I got everything open real quick. And then come to find out that Bulbapedia apparently is having server issues, which is not good. But I think we've got what we need, so it should be fine. Emphasis on should. So, we're going to try this. Hello, welcome back. We're still doing Pokemon. We are still doing conditions, but we don't have that many left to do, so today should be relatively easy. Assuming, of course, that we do not take the circuitous route through every single rabbit hole that we find along the way. Which is going to be hard, because I love bunnies. And I have a habit of going through every single rabbit hole I find. But we're going to try regardless. So, we're going to get into this. Before I do that, I see that I have people that are in the chat that I can't read because it's too far away. So let me just bring that a little bit closer. So that I can actually kind of sort of read it a little bit. Hello Blizz, good to see you here. Hello Alden, good to see you as well. Hello JP. I've got the crew all together. Well, no, I don't have a PC yet. That'd be the whole crew. And then hopefully we get a few extras too, because I like having an audience. Alright, so we're going to get into this. Before we do this, yes, JP, I'm getting to the plug, okay? I'm getting there. Doing it. If you're not subscribed already, you should be doing that too. And if you are subscribed, make sure you hit the bell icon. That way you're notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into tabletop gaming or Pokemon, then share this video with them. But if you just like me, like what we're doing here, go ahead, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. But if you're going to go through and you're going to spend the time leaving a comment, might I suggest you take just one more little step. Join the Discord. It's a friendly Discord. We share memes there. Everybody loves memes, except for the people that don't love memes, and I don't understand those people. They're weird. Anyway, join the Discord, because if you want to play with us, you have to. And then you need to go to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know what game you want to play and what your availability is, and as soon as I have enough people for a game, we will get started. And speaking of getting started, let's go ahead and do that today. So let me go ahead and pull everything in, assuming this stuff works. So we're going to need to have our browser. There it is. We'll need to have our spreadsheet. There that is. And we'll do a quick little review before we get into it, because like I said, we only have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 left. So a little over a dozen. We can do this. And besides, we've already done so much already. And a lot of them, as you'll notice, are just per rules. I expect that to be pretty much the case going forward as well. The thing that really caught us last time was when we got into the swapping abilities. Not so much because we needed to determine what the ability does. That's pretty obvious. It's we had to determine what that means for our actual Pokemon, for our stats. So burning is exactly what you think it is. Freezing is paralyzing. Paralysis is different. We had to, just kind of adapt that one. Poison is poison. Sleeping is sleeping, obviously. Substitute is cool. I like Substitute. If I was making a Pokemon, I would use Substitute just because, I can. Transformed is just copying the other people. Bound means that basically they're grappled, more or less, sorta, kinda. I didn't use actual grapple rules because you can grapple anyway, but if it's a bound move, that applies. Parasong took us a long time, but basically you can knock everybody unconscious, including yourself. Minimize is just the reduce person spell. Primed doesn't even work for us, so we didn't get that. Can't escape. Can't escape is fascinating because it's basically going to create an arena. It is a radius that they cannot leave. And the radius can be based on, you know, however far their move is. So we went through that when we looked at moves, and since everything has a range that is equal to 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 levels, that means it's a minimum of 25 feet, assuming that they had a can't escape move at level 1, or a maximum of 75 feet. And that's a radius. That's a huge area. Honestly, it's kind of like too huge of an area, because you'd think that you'd want to keep them a lot closer than that. A 75-foot radius means that they still have a lot of room to run around. We may have to go back and revisit that later, not now. For confusion, we are using Pathfinder rules, not Pokemon rules, because the Pathfinder rules are a lot more fun. So, in essence, confusion for Pokemon just means that there's a 1/3 chance that they attack themselves. Okay, fine, whatever. Pathfinder rules, though, there's a 25% chance of one of 4 things happening. Either they act normally, they attack themselves, maybe, they attack somebody else, or they just stand there and do nothing. It's a lot more fun. And hey, there's PC! Now we have the entire morning crew together. This is fantastic. Now we just need to get more people in. Alright, so getting pumped, we're going to adjust our critical modifiers, which is great because it means that we could potentially get, because the scale goes from +6 to -6. You can't really get negative, or I guess if you go like 1 negative, except I'm not even sure there is a negative for crits. But if you went like 1 negative, you could actually stop them from critting at all, I guess. However, if you could get up to a +6 on your crits, then, yeah. That's like a 35% chance of actually critting, which is great. So then we got into all of our splits and swaps and boosts and drops and things like that. And that was just really simple. We're just adjusting stats. Which we came down here and that's what we were doing with this. So for a move like power boost or power drop or, you know, power split, anything like that, since it's affecting power, it's going to be affecting physical moves. Because we already established that over here in Pokemon. It boosts your attack, which is strength. And then for the moves, strength is going to be your physical moves, and so that's how that's going to work. The same thing was true with defense, which is going to be their wisdom. And wisdom is also going to offer a damage resistance now against physical moves, which is going to be great. Because the way it was before, all of these Pokemon moves are going to be doing like massive amounts of damage. Again, when we look at some of these moves, just your normal tackle is doing 1d40 damage, which is enormous. However, Pokemon are also going to have these absolutely massive, potentially, damage resistances. Since it's equal to their level divided by 5, that means that by the time they get up to like level 100, it's going to be a 20 damage resistance. Which means that things like tackle, it's going to be a coin toss whether or not you actually do any damage at all. And even if you do, it's probably not going to be that much. You will still need your bigger hits, like, say, Headbutt, to actually deal any significant damage. So that's going to work out well. And then special defense is going to be Charisma. Same thing. We understand how that works. So all of these are as we think we are, and now we're going to get into the ones that we haven't done yet. So next up is going to be Guard Boost. So let me just get back to the browser. And let's see if we can find it in the list here. Yeah, so like I said, Bulbapedia apparently is having problems, and like the search bar does not work as far as I can tell. It didn't work earlier, and hopefully it's not going to be an issue. Besides, I'm pretty good at navigating through links. Alright, guard boost. So we're still in the stat modifiers. So guard boost, a condition or a status condition in Legends Arceus that indicates that a Pokemon's defensive stats are raised. Okay. And the same thing with guard drop. Again, Legends Arceus. Okay, Legends Arceus, as we've already established, is a weird one. It is outside the mainline games, and so we're not bothering with it. And for that matter, critical hit boost is in the same category. So all of these are Legends Arceus, which means that all of these we can just straight up skip. And see, just like that, 3 more, already done. Okay, so getting rid of those, next up is going to be Obscured. Obscured is a status condition exclusive to Pokemon Legends Arceus. We're not done yet. Okay, yeah, we're not doing that one. So what do we have when we started? 17, now we're down to 13. Okay, forced moves. So now we're moving on from just things that we want to do to controlling what they can do. Alright, so the forced move, first one is Choice Lock. Is that right? Yeah, Choice Lock. So the main article is choice items. When a Pokemon is holding a Choice Band, Choice Specs, or Choice Scarf, first selects a move, it will only be able to use that move until switched out. That sounds like a really bad idea. Why would you do that? Okay. Category, choice items. No, we don't need that. Alright, this is a choice band. Why exactly would you want to do this? Type of held item introduced in Gen 3. It boosts the holder's attack. I hope it boosts it a lot. But locks it to only using one move. It has 2 counterparts that boost different stats, a Choice Scarf and Choice Specs. The effect is it boosts the Pokemon's attack by 50%. Alright, that's pretty significant. So since our attack stat is also our strength, if you had 20 strength, it would be boosting up to 30 strength. That's not insignificant. Sure though, I mean, I guess there's not really a whole lot for us to do here. The Choice Specs, this is a held item that boosts their special attack. Fair enough. And the Choice Scarf, it boosts the holder's speed. And even with this one, yes, it boosts their speed by 50%, but only allows the first move selected. Alden says, these are meta-defining items. I hate meta stuff. Okay, that's fair. I don't see anything that we need to change here. We can follow the rules as written. It'll work fine for us. So this is just going to be per rules. And I mean, I really do hate meta builds. I gotta say. It's like, one of the things that I'm unhappy about in Guild Wars 2, which I know, like, weird tangent, but Guild Wars 2 being an MMO, it has a lot of meta builds. And, like, one of my problems is that everything gets built around the meta builds. Every time there's a balance patch, people, or the developers look at the meta build and say, well, this thing is doing very well, let's nerf that, nobody's using this ability, we'll you know, boost this one up a little bit. And on paper, it sounds like a really good idea. The problem is that whenever they do that, they usually tend to just utterly destroy whatever the ability was that was doing really well, which means that yes, you have successfully nerfed the meta builds, and you have absolutely destroyed everybody who wasn't playing a meta build. And I understand these things are a function of just, like existing. That meta builds will always be a thing, but I really hate it when these things happen. Anyway, though, so moving on. Encore. So Encore forces a Pokemon to repeat its last attack for 2 to 5 turns in Gen 2, 4 to 8 turns in Gen 3, and only 3 turns in Gen 5 and 6. In Gen 5, if the Pokemon has a Magic Coat active, the move will fail. Why do we get the feeling that Gen 2 was like the Dark Ages for Pokemon? It's like, okay, well, we've, or no, not Gen 2, Gen 3 and 4. Because, I mean, 4 to 8 moves. Imagine if you got the 8. It's like, well, guess I'm locked into using Growl for the next 8 turns. It reminds me of like a lot of the older PC games that just did not hold your hand. They did not care about your feelings, did not care if you wanted to play the game, did not care about your precious self-esteem. It's just like, no, I'm going to kill you. Brutally. I'm going to leave a genetic scar in your entire lineage. Your children will be born fearing me. That kind of gives me the idea of Gen 3 and 4. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. You guys know Pokemon better than me. You let me know what it was like back then. I wasn't playing Pokemon back then. But I noticed that a lot of these conditions really got ramped up in those generations. Let's see. Anyway, though, Encore is just really simple. It's going to force him to keep using the same move. I don't see anything we need to change. Her rules. Alden says, basically, the Pokemon developers cared about the game's competitive balance over time. And, let's see. Blizz says, yeah, the early Pokemon games did not hold your hand, especially in Gen 2. Alden says, each generation subsequently made changes to make the games more balanced and fair. I have weird mixed feelings on that one. Because, like, I understand that some things did need to change, and this is why I still say that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was my first Pokemon game. I did technically play Shining Pearl. Okay, and I beat Shining Pearl, and I'm very proud for beating Shining Pearl. But at the same time, I also will concede that I did not play Pearl. I played Shining Pearl, and while they look like the same game, they are not, in fact, the same game. They are mostly the same. They are like 95% the same game. But that 5% makes a huge difference. And I will say this, with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was a very easy game. It was a very, very hand-holdy game. It was the kind of modern game that does not want you to lose. It wants you to win. To the point where, like, before every significant battle, they would always heal you up. And there were no real huge consequences to ever losing. I'm not sure there were any consequences to losing anyway. But, like, for example, I remember that when I was going through Shining Pearl, I ran out of money. Okay? I ran out of money. Now, why was that a problem? Because at the point of the game that I was trying to get through the mountains. I don't remember exactly which mountains, but I was struggling. Okay, I was really, really struggling. And because of that, I was relying a lot on things like potions. I was using high potions, I was using regular potions, I was using all the potions that I could get. And I ran out of money. And it's like, I can't get through here without potions. I can't get the potions because I'm broke. And I had to go through and I had to grind for money so I could get the potions to carry me through. Which was a good thing, because in grinding for money, I was, also leveling up all of my people. And so, that was fine. But the point is that there was nothing there that was really going to just give me the money. I had to go and do a whole lot of work to get it. Whereas in Scarlet and Violet, I wanted for nothing. Like, anything that I wanted, I could go and get. Do I need potions? I could afford so many potions. The same thing goes with, like, TMs. I finished Shining Pearl with so many TMs because I didn't use them because I'm a pack rat. I have a hard time using all of my consumables. And, yeah, that's just the way I am. In Scarlet and Violet, though, you didn't even need them for the most part, because, like, anything that you wore, or anything that you learned, you had forever access to. So it didn't matter. It really didn't matter. Scarlet and Violet just held your hand a lot more. And I think they've just been getting easier over time. However, I mean, they usually only do that after they've kind of gone too far, and I do recognize that Diamond and Pearl did kind of set a bar. And I mean, it's easy to say that because people still talk about Cynthia today. Of all the different trainers, of all the gyms and champions and everything else, at least to my knowledge, and obviously I am not the expert here, there are only two people that really, really stand out. The first one, of course, is Red. Now, I never played Red, or I never played, what was the second one? Ruby? I think it was Ruby Sapphire was Gen 2? I think. Either way, I didn't play it. So I never fought Red. But I have heard the stories about fighting Red. That you went in to fight Red, and Red was not going to hold your hand, okay? Red was here to kill you. And your Pokemon were in the way. And then obviously there was Cynthia. Let's see. Blizz is also saying Whitney. I don't know who Whitney is, so I don't know that. Alden said, though, each generation subsequently made changes to make the game more balanced and fair. An example about a massive change that happened in Gen 4, physical and special was tied to typing and not separate for each move. An example, Fire Punch was a special move in Gen 1 to Gen 3 because it was a Fire-type move. All Fire-type moves were special attacks. Okay. That was... I can see how that makes sense. I can see how it makes sense, because there's nothing physical to fire. I mean, fire would always be special attack, but, I mean, then you get something like Fire Punch, and it's like, well, I mean, how is Fire Punch a special attack? You're punching somebody. So, I mean, I get it, and I'm glad that they kind of straightened that out, but that's typical game design. I mean, they're refining it as they go on. Blizzard says, yes, they are. They have been getting easier over time. Whitney and Cynthia, which I just read. I guess Whitney was gold silver. Alden says, Red was famous because he's the protagonist of the first game. Okay, fair. Like I said, I can only go based on what I've heard. I heard that he was an absolute monster. But that's only what I've heard. JP says, now I have Red Dawn scenes in my mind. Wolverines! I actually haven't seen... No, wait. No, I have not seen Red Dawn. I just saw The Hunt for Red October for the first time. That was fun. Still weird to have Sean Connery on a Russian boat. Because the implication is like all of these people are supposed to be Russian. But we've got a Scotsman, we've got an Englishman, we've got a Frenchman. I think there was a Frenchman on there. Either way, there was literally everybody except Russians on the sub. Let's see, Alden says, Red was the strongest NPC in the entire franchise based on Pokemon levels. At least until Cynthia came along. Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I did manage to beat Cynthia on my first try, but again, I beat Cynthia on my first try only because it was Brilliant, or Shining Pearl, not Pearl. The friendship mechanic in there really saved my tail. And I'm relatively certain that didn't exist back in Pearl, which means that, technically speaking, I should have lost. I should have lost. Alright, getting back to this, though. Encore. We did that. Encore is per rules, so we're getting into Rampage now. So, Rampage. If a Pokemon uses either Thrash, Outage, Petal Dance, Rage, Generation 1 only, or Raging Fury, Generation 9 only, it will be forced to use that move for 2 to 3 turns, or 3 to 4 turns in Gen 1, and it will become confused at the end. And Alden says, true, but Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl Cynthia's team was optimized, the original Pearl wasn't. I mean, I don't really know anything about that, but if her original team wasn't optimized, it was still a monster. Cynthia was still strong enough to traumatize an entire generation, so I don't know what else to make of that. Okay, so I need to look into this a little bit. Rampage. So, Rampage is a battle state induced by a move that locks the user into using that move for several turns, and then they will get confused at the end due to fatigue. So, if a Pokemon uses Thrash, Petal Dance, Outage, or Raging Fury, it'll be forced to use that move multiple times in a row and then become confused at the end. While they are rampaging, the player will not even be given an option to select a move before each turn. Fair enough. I think I know these moves, actually. And see, Alden says, oh, for sure, but any knowledgeable fan out there can tell you that on paper, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl Cynthia is way stronger than her original counterpart. Keyword being on paper. I mean, fair enough. There's a lot of things that go into making an experience like that. Like, I believe you. I think you're right that, you know, on paper, she was probably the stronger one. At the same time, though, anybody who is playing Cynthia for the second time also probably fought Cynthia when they were... what? I mean, if you're like, let's say 30 years old when you, let's say you're like 30 years old when you played Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. That would have meant that you were, what, like 20 years old on, be like 20 years old or something like that when you fought Cynthia the first time? I don't know exactly how long it was between Pearl and Shining Pearl. But either way, I mean, you get smarter as you get older. And since Pokemon is a kid's game, I can only imagine that, like, somebody out there had to fight Cynthia when they were, like, 9 years old. There's a couple of ways to look at that. On the one hand, you made it to Cynthia, being a 9-year-old, and you made it through all of the other trainers that were in the Elite Four, so that's something. At the second time, though, a 9-year-old going up against Cynthia. Well, that isn't just the most Pokemon thing ever. Alden says, oh, hey, that reminds me, how would recover work in your tabletop? I don't know. We haven't gotten to it yet. I'll get to it in a minute, though. Also says, true, I beat Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl Cynthia on my first try. When I fought her for the first time when I was like 9, took 5 tries. See, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, is Cynthia maybe stronger on paper? Sure, but then again, so are all the players. So things kind of work out. Alright, so, getting back to this. Raging Fury, this power were changed to be 120 and 100% respectively. It inflicts damage for 2 to 3 turns, and the user becomes confused due to fatigue. It is disrupted if it is not successful due to missing, sleeping paralysis, freeze, flinching, or protected target, or immunity. Alright, so I think everything is kind of baked into these moves. It'll tell us how long each one lasts. So, Forced Move, Encore, I think, or not Encore, but Rampage is going to be fine as written. Okay, and you were asking about Recover. Well, we only have so many things left. I don't remember doing Recover. We've got Rolling, Make an Uproar, Fixated, Bide, Recharging, Charging, Bracing, Center of Attention, Magicoat, Protection. I don't think we did anything called Recover. It must be a move. And unfortunately, like I said, when I tried to use the search earlier, it didn't work. But I'll try it again. We'll see what happens. Hey, it actually worked. Alright, so, Recover is a move, apparently. It is a normal type move introduced in Gen 1. It's got 5 moves. And let's see, Recover restores up to 50% of the user's maximum HP, rounded down, has 20 points. That was Gen 1 through 3. Gen 4 was reduced to 10 points. Gen 5 to 7. It's now the same, it's 50%, but also rounded up now. Alda says her melodic had it, remember? No, I don't remember, because I try every single day to forget her melodic. Okay? I try really hard to forget that her Pokemon even existed. I mean, I feel like I'm the only one out there because everyone else is like, oh, her Garchomp is an absolute monster. Oh no, he's gonna use Earthquake. Ah, he's so fast. And I'm like, I beat her Garchomp in a couple of moves. I ran out of moves fighting her melodic. Seriously, it was awful. However, the answer to this is really rules as written, quite frankly. Recover restores 50% of the user's maximum HP rounded down. I'm fine with it. I really am. The fact is that, number one, it only has 5 uses now, apparently. It had way too many uses back in Pearl. But right now, I mean, especially with it being 5, then yeah, it's a massive heal. But at the same time, deal with it. I mean, not everything in Pokemon is fair. It's one of the things that I always kind of lament when I'm playing a Pokemon game, whether it was Pearl or whether it was Violet, is like, for the longest time, and this is true in every Pokemon game, when you are starting every Pokemon game, until you get into, like, the higher levels, and I do mean like Gym 5 or like the level 50 areas, to the point where like almost every Pokemon is going to be they're in their final stage already. You always build to beat the gym that you're going into. So the first gym is like in Pearl. The first gym that you go to is the Rock Gym, which is great because like when you pick your starter Pokemon, you have the choice of Fire, Grass, and Water. You have a 2 out of 3 chance of picking a Pokemon that is strong versus that one. And I mean, if you decide to pick a Fire type, that's on you, okay? Don't be that person. Pick something else. But then, what are you going to catch on the way to the Rock Gym? You're going to catch a few normal types, maybe a couple of flying types, which don't use those against the Rock Gym. But you'll also probably catch a lot of grass and water types. Okay, fine. Or at least grass types. So you should have at least a decent, team walking in there. And then you'll build to take down every single team that you go in against. And I always thought that was a little unfair to the gym. Because, like, imagine if somebody literally looked at your team and just said, hey, I'm going to build your anti-team. Which I guess is kind of the point of your rival, because they usually take whatever's strong against your partner. At least until Scarlet and Violet, in which case I always picked the one that was weak to your partner for reasons. I thought that was kind of dumb. It's like, I know that you're the rival, okay? You're supposed to be challenging me here. Why would you pick something that is weak to my partner? Again, this is one of those cases where I do think they're doing a disservice by kind of nerfing it. So, yeah, don't do that. Let's see. Blizz says her Garchomp does Dragon's Dance and gets fast and powerful. Alden corrects and says that Swords Dance. If Garchomp got Dragon Dance, that would be awful. It can't even learn Dragon Dance. I don't actually know what Dragon Dance is. It just sounds terrifying. But, I mean, Garchomp is a dragon. Why can't it learn it? Just seems a little bit weird. Maybe I should make a rule. Maybe it can learn it. No, I can't do that. It's already written down on the wiki. We can look at what they can learn by TM. Bliss. Let's see. Every competitive player has said Garchomp is fair because, specifically, it cannot learn Dragon Dance. Alden says, the rival picking a Pokemon weak to yours started way earlier. Did it? I always thought that they picked the one that was strong versus your partner. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I have very limited experience with the games. I played Pearl, I played Violet, and I played a very, very small amount of a pirated copy of Leaf Green. And when I say pirated, I mean it was still in Japanese. And I don't speak Japanese. I don't read Japanese. I had to figure out what each move does just by using it. And seeing what happened. And then just, memorize what that move was. I can't read it, but I can figure it out. I didn't get very far, though. And obviously, I couldn't read anything that they were telling me. It's like, hey, you need to go to this town now. What town? I don't know. You're speaking gibberish. Okay, getting back to this, though. Rolling. So, rolling is for rollout, obviously, and ice ball. I know both of these moves. And this is rules as written. In fact, we've already done it. So right here, we did rollout. So rollout to rock type move, it's physical. It's a charge attack at 65 feet for the Pokemon that we made. It does 1d30 damage. However, it lasts for 5 turns. It doubles power each turn, so that's going to be 30, 60, 120, 240. That's only 4. 240 and then roughly 480. Which is just... If that last move hits... If you're still alive by the time the last move hits, you will not... You will not survive. So we've done this one already. This one is really simple, per rules. Now, make an uproar I have never heard of. So let's go ahead and take a look. If a Pokemon uses Uproar, it will be forced to use that move for 3 turns, or 2 to 5 in Gen 3 and 4. Again, see, that's what I'm talking about. Everything got tuned up in Gen 3 and 4. Alden says, ignoring games with multiple arrivals, it actually started in Gen 7. Scarlet and Violet being 9. Gen 7 would have been... I want to say Black and White? I think it's Black and White. I think Black and White was 7, Sword Shield was 8? Maybe I have those backwards. I'm not positive. Anyway, I'm still waiting for the 3rd game to come out in that series. We had Sword and Shield. I'm still waiting for Gun. But you know what? I guess we'll just have to wait. Sun and Moon, Black and White was 5. Wow, okay. Well, I'm way off on that one then. Way off. Okay, anyway. Making an uproar. So... while Pokemon is making an uproar, other Pokemon will be unable to sleep unless it has the soundproof ability. But again, uproar is just kind of it's a thing. So it does damage. It has a power to it. Interestingly, though, it says that the points are only deducted the first turn it's used, which I guess is actually kind of the same for all of them. Let's see. Alden says, Gen 6 was XY. People have been expecting Z ever since. And we finally got it with Legends ZA. Not sure if that really counts. Like, that doesn't count. I don't feel like that was planned. So it is a sound-based move, which, I mean, we dealt with sound-based moves earlier. I'm not sure there's really anything that we need to change here. Just follow the rules of it. Per rules. It's just a move. Make a stat block for it and it's fine. Okay, Fixated in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Skip. We can skip that one outright. Alright, so, moving on. Now we're getting into the multi-turn moves. Hey, there's an Incineroar! I know Incineroars. I never actually got to play with one, but I like cats. Alright, first one is Bide. So, if a Pokemon uses Bide, the user will be unable to select a move for an idling period of 2 turns. 2 to 3 turns in Gen 1 and 2. Although it will still be able to switch out during the move's effect. Afterwards, Bide will do damage equal to twice the damage received during the idling period. If the user is not directly attacked during the biding period, Bide will fail on the turn it would be released. This is interesting. And probably not for the reasons that you think. So here we go. There's like nothing we need to change here. It seems like the rules are pretty well laid out, okay? You're going to go ahead and you're going to use Bide, okay? You'll use Bide. And if we look at the actual move, see, there's the error 503. Yeah, they're having some kind of problem with their servers. So, yeah, here we go. After Bide is selected... Oh, I should look up here. It has 10 moves. The power is open. But, afterwards it will do damage equal to twice the move, or the damage received. It bypasses accuracy checks to always hit, even during the semi-invulnerable, such as Dig or Fly. The damage received during the period is counted as equal to the last amount of damage done. But if I go all the way down to generation 5 and 7, can no longer hit ghost-type Pokemon during triple battles. Yes. Gen 8 and onwards, they pulled it. It no longer exists. Since we are basing our Pokedex on Gen 9, which is the latest one to come out, I feel like we gotta not do this one. That's a shame. Although, frankly, it may be for the best. So, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say NA for this one, and then I'm going to explain why. So here's the interesting thing about this one. My first immediate thought is, with Bide, there is one problem that we would run into. And that is that in the game, you are forced to do things. Because when you're in the middle of a battle, you only have 4 moves. Now, if you have a move that doesn't target them, like, say, Growl or something like that, if they use Bide, and you can see them using Bide, you're going to want to not do anything to them during that time, because if you don't touch them, then half of 0, or, twice 0 is 0. They will do 0 damage to you. And that's true if you have a non-damaging move, which, I would say everyone should have, but I didn't follow that rule myself. Point is, though, that in our game, our Pokemon are going to be free to move, they're going to be free to use other abilities, they're going to be free to do things like punch and bite and grapple and whatever. It would be far, far too easy for a Pokemon to use Bide, and then just don't do anything to it. Just skip your turn, which is something that Pokemon does not allow you to do. It's a little bit like checkers in that regard, if you play by like the official rules, where if somebody presents you with a jumping opportunity, you must take it. Which is a stupid rule, and I hate it. But Pokemon operates under kinda sort of the same thing. Since we're not abiding by that, and it would be possible to just, double move, Bide would become pretty much a useless move. With one notable caveat. The fact is that when you're playing the game, you know what every Pokemon is doing because they announce it. They'll say that, Wild Sandslash use Dust Cloud or whatever. So you'll know when they're using Bide. In our game, you won't necessarily have that, although that's something we may need to address later. After all, generally speaking, usually the trainer has to call out what their Pokemon needs to do. Oh, I guess Blizz is out of here. Well, Blizz, it was good having you. Thank you for all of your input, and you take care. Yeah, usually you would know that they were using Bide, and so you would know to stay away from them. I suppose if we want to be lore accurate, you would still have to call out your attacks. And so everybody on the field would still know what you were doing. Interestingly, though, I wonder if we could actually make an exception for that. What if we made it so that psychic types didn't have to do that? This is a little bit of a rabbit hole. Short rabbit hole. But if you have to call your attacks, I mean, that's one thing. That makes sense. You know, Pikachu, use Thunderbolt. What if you didn't have to do that with psychic types? What if you had an Alakazam or something and you could just think it? Not only would that be, you know, completely on brand for a psychic type to do, but it would also give psychic types an element of stealth. You would never necessarily know what a psychic type was going to do. I don't know, what do you think? Is it interesting? Is it not interesting? Is it a little bit too overpowered? Because you got to remember that we're not just talking about you and your Psychic-type Pokemons, we're also talking about any trainer you come across that also has Psychic-type Pokemon. They would be doing the same thing to you. Which is why we have to look at whether it's balanced or not. I love the idea. I would even leave it in there if it was a little unbalanced, because I like the Pokemon being scary. I think that everybody should be afraid of Pokemon. I mean, not running in terror every time one shows up, but like healthy respect. Alden says I need to rehear that. Okay. Let me simplify this. Let me simplify it then. The idea is this. In a Pokemon battle, whenever a Pokemon goes to use a move, in the games, you will see that move. It will be Pikachu uses Thunderbolt, Charmander uses Flamethrower, etc., etc. The reason being is that in the manga, in the anime, in the setting, they're literally calling their attacks. The trainer calls the attack, the Pokemon then does the attack. It's literally Ash and Pikachu. Pikachu, use Thunderbolt. Pikachu, Pikachu! Zap! So you would technically know what the other Pokemon is doing, unless it's like a wild Pokemon, in which case you're not going to get anything. The reason why I brought it up is because what if a Psychic-type Pokemon didn't need that? What if a Psychic-type Pokemon already knew what you wanted it to do, or it could just read your mind, and so you did not get a called attack? What if you're going up against something like a Gardevoir, and you're waiting to hear what it's going to do on its turn, and you hear nothing? Gardevoir could be using any number of abilities, and you would have no way to know what it was unless you could identify what actually happened. I think it could be a really interesting thing to give to Psychic-type Pokemons, because they're psychic. They're already in your head. It would give Psychic types an element of stealth, which I think is really fascinating. Alden says, interesting, so do we have to roll like an intelligence check to figure out what it did? Actually, that is a really, really good question. And I have an answer for it. I have an answer for that one. Because we're going to go back to Pathfinder here for a moment. There is a very, very seldomly used skill. And when I say seldomly used, I mean that I play a wizard. And even I never use this. So we're going to come down to skills. We're going to come down to spellcraft. Now, spellcraft has a lot of different abilities. Most of them are things like learning spells or preparing spells or things like that. But the number one right here. Identify a spell as it is being cast. Generally speaking, this never gets used. The reason being is because, well, it's being cast at you. You have other priorities at the moment. But identify a spell as being cast. Identifying a spell as being cast requires no action, but you must be able to clearly see the spell as it's being cast. And this incurs the same penalties as a perception skill check due to distance, poor conditions, and other factors. There is no retry on it. But the point is that since every spell has usually verbal or somatic or material or sometimes a combination of all three components, technically speaking, even though every wizard will do it a little bit differently, you can still identify a spell being cast. And since these Pokemon moves are basically just spells for Pokemon, yeah, we could do that. So if you are up against a trainer, and it's a fairy trainer, okay? And so, what's a fairy move? I don't know. I'm just gonna say Fairy Punch because I have no idea what fairies really do, to be honest. But you have a trainer that's got a fairy type, okay? And they say use Fairy Punch. Fair enough. And then your fairy type's gonna fly up there or whatever, and it's going to punch them with Fairy Punch. But Gardevoir is fairy type. Gardevoir is also a psychic type. Alden says Moonblast. There you go. Moonblast. Works for me. So you have a fairy type. The fairy type uses Moonblast. Alright? So use Moonblast. And just goes Moonblast. Boom. Done. But then you've got Gardevoir. Gardevoir's a fairy type. Gardevoir is also a psychic type. And so, yeah. The fact of the matter is, since it's a psychic type, you wouldn't actually have to call anything out. It would just be, do it. And as such, your Gardevoir would do it. Think it, and it happens. And then, yes, you would need to do something to identify what was being cast because, well, you're not going to get any other clues any other way. It's an interesting concept, I think. Basically, psychic types would be the equivalent of giving all of your Pokemon Silent Spell. So instead of looking here at skills, we'll look at feats. Specifically, meta magic feats. Of which there's a couple. But what I want is... Here we go. Silent Spell. You can cast your spells without making any sounds. A silent spell can be cast with no verbal components. Spells without verbal components are not affected. This does increase the level of your spells by 1 slot. And, you know, that's fine, whatever. But either way, we're talking about giving an entire typing of Pokemon essentially the silent spell meta magic. Now, that would be really, really powerful for psychic type Pokemon. However, there's also like 18 Pokemon types. So, really powerful for them, but they're still a pretty big minority. Or a pretty small minority, I guess. I don't know. I like the idea. I think it'd be good. I never even really thought about having to call out any kind of move until now. It just never came up. Okay, getting back to this though. So Bide is out. Bide has just been... they removed it themselves. So next is going to be recharging. A Pokemon successfully uses a certain move must recharge during the next turn. While recharging, they cannot perform any action. This is Hyper Beam, I believe. And probably a bunch of others. Let's see. After successfully using one of the moves listed below, the user's next turn will automatically be skipped as part of their recharge turn. During their recharge turn, they will be unable to open their list of moves, open their bag using items, open their party, and switch out Pokemon, or run from wild Pokemon during a battle. Poison Pokemon will still lose HP on the recharge turn. A confused Pokemon will not hit itself. It does not count for the number of turns remaining for sleep, confusion, or disable. However, it does count for a timer ball, but we haven't even gotten into those. That was Gen 1. Ah, here we go. Moves. There's a lot of them, actually. Blast Burn, Eterna Beam, Frenzy Plant, Giga Impact, Hydro Cannon, Hyper Beam. See, I was right. Meteor Assault, Prismatic Laser, Roar of Time, Rock Wrecker, and Shadow Half. I don't recognize any of these, except for, like, Hyper Beam. I wonder if any of these are, like, specific to one type of Pokemon. Like, Eterna Beam. Is this something that, like, lots of Pokemon can get? No. No, they can't. So, in Gen 8, nobody can get it. Gen 9, nobody can get it. So who gets it? Eternatus. That's it. Okay, fine, whatever. Yeah, a lot of these are just... These are unique to certain Pokemon, except for Hyper Beam. Blast Burn, Frenzy Plant, and Hydro Cannon are unique to starters. Per Alden. Okay, fair. And then some of them are going to be unique to other Pokemon. Either way, there's not much for us to really do here. Oh, and Alden says Roar of Time is Dialga's signature move. Right. Yes. It's Palkia's counterpart. I knew that. So Dialga is the diamond, Palkia is the pearl. What did Palkia get again? I honestly did not use Palkia that much. I had Palkia in my team, but it kind of felt like I needed to. Just because, like, Palkia was the legendary for that game, it felt a little bit weird not to use it. Well, it can't be Hydro Cannon because, that was it. Oh, Alden says it was Spatial Rend. Okay. I don't remember what that did. I could probably find out. Maybe, if the search function works. Either way, we're looking at recharge. And so, there's not much that we really need to do here. I think that recharge is going to be fine as is. So, recharging is just going to be per rules. Basically, if you're using one of those abilities, you have a recharge time, okay? It's unavoidable. Spatial Rend. It is a damage-dealing Dragon-type move introduced in Gen 4. It is a signature move of Palkia. We know that. Spatial Rend deals damage and has an increased critical hit ratio. It can also be used as part of a contest combination, but who cares about that? Let's see. In Gen 8 onwards... I would say it doesn't matter, but since they've been throwing pretty much every single Pokemon into into Scarlet and Violet through all their crystal raid things. Technically, it is in there. But okay, yeah, there's nothing this doesn't do anything for us. It's fine. So yeah, recharge, we don't need to do anything more for recharge. Recharge is really simple, actually. Just, you use it, you have to take a turn off. The same thing's going to be true for charging turn, because this is going to be like the opposite. Solar Beam. I love Solar Beam. Solar Beam is one of my favorite moves, because I love big lasers. So it is a 2-turn move where a Pokemon cannot act. The charging can be skipped with Power Herb, or in the case of Solar Beam and Solar Blade, the presence of Harsh Sunlight. I never really got that combo to go off. Generally speaking, because, like, anytime... Actually, that was always kind of the problem with Solar Beam. It's like, I loved using Solar Beam, but I never got Solar Beam to win a fight that I was already winning. Or that I wasn't already winning, rather. Because quite frankly, Solar Beam is like one of those things where if you're in like an actual fight, like where there is a 50-50 chance that you're walking out of this one, Solar Beam is not a good ability to use. Because you are taking that one turn to charge this thing up, and then, I mean, quite frankly, if it misses, you lost 2 turns and they're just going to beat you to death. Of course, Solar Beam is not the only one, because there's a whole list down here. Bounce, Dig, Dive, Fly, Freeze Shock, Geomancy, Ice Burn, Meteor Beam, Phantom Force, Razor, Wind, Shadow Force, Skull Bash, Sky Attack, Sky Drop, Solar Beam, and Solar Blade. And a lot of those are just so much better because Dig, Dive, and Fly, the user becomes semi-invulnerable. So unlike, you know, your Venusaur sitting there charging like an idiot, you could use one of the others, assuming they can learn it, and you just become untouchable. So that's great. I guess it just kind of comes down to a matter of, you know, what is your Pokemon allowed to learn? And that's where we get into things like the meta builds and stuff like that, which I don't want to get into. All in all, it could be fine. Alden says, but in the context of tabletop, would that leave the trainer as a sitting duck? Well, that's kind of a weird thing, because technically speaking, the answer is yes. However, that's also true of every fight. See, here's what we're going to be doing. It's not that the user is going to suddenly become vulnerable while the Pokemon is going to be, you know, charging up its Solar Beam. We're not necessarily making the trainer a target. We're just taking off the safety. See, if you are going to go in and, I don't know if we're going to do like, you know, a champion build or something like that. If you guys want to do the Elite Four, if that's the thing that you want to do, I will put together a game like that. If you're going to be in an actual Pokemon battle, then trainers are off limits. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're safe. It just means that you do not send your Pokemon to attack another trainer. And if you're fighting a random Pokemon trainer on the road, the rules would largely be the same. You know, you throw your Pokemon out, you let them scrap, you don't attack each other because that's just... You don't do that, okay? Basically, it's Pokemon by Queensberry rules, alright? Fisticuffs. But I'm reminded of something. Did anybody else out there watch Zoid's New Century? I have a feeling that at least somebody out there besides me has seen Zoid's New Century. If you don't know it by the name, you would know it as the Zoid's anime with the Liger Zero. And a lot of people might not know the actual proper name for the series, but a lot of people also know the Liger Zero. And so the idea in Zoid's New Century is that we're in the future, the wars are over, and now we settle, or we don't really settle conflicts this way, but we use Zoids for gladiatorial combat. And Alden says, nope, sorry, okay, I don't know if you know what Zoids are. Zoids is a mecha anime. Think like Gundam. The only difference being that instead of giant humanoid robots, they are giant animal robots. And it is absolutely amazing, and you should absolutely go watch it. Oh, see, Alden says I did a quick Google search. I recognize it at least. See, I told you. Lots of people know of it, even if they don't know it by name. The point is that because in Zoid's New Century, we have this like great big tournament thing going on, there are rules. So basically, anywhere that you want to have a battle, you can. And there are these giant satellites in orbit that can drop what's called a judge anywhere on the planet. They literally just drop it from space. It hits the ground, the judge comes up and says, all right, the area in a 10-mile radius is now a battle zone. And they will literally warn people to evacuate the area or just stay out of the area. Like, oh, you're entering into a battle arena. Please turn around now for your own safety. However, notably in the show, there is another organization that is kind of running their own shadow tournament. They have their own judge satellites, they have their own judges, and the thing that makes them really unique is the fact that they don't have rules. They drop in a judge, and the judge will say, yep, we're having a battle here. Don't really care about the safety range. Don't care about the rules. Kill your opponents if you want to. Last one standing wins. Now, what we've got going on in our Pokemon module is going to be kind of the same as that. See, in general, anybody that you meet is going to understand that, like, I don't want to be flamethrowered, and I'm not going to flamethrower you either. We're here to let our Pokemon test each other against each other. But now imagine any of the various teams in the Pokemon games. Whether it's Team Rocket, or Team Galactic, or Team whatevers. Now, most of them are, in general, pretty harmless. I mean, Team Rocket just wants to capture Pokemon, because I don't think that they really have a reason to catch Pokemon. I don't know. I think Giovanni had some kind of plan. Team Galactic thought they were going to create an entirely new universe once they caught the legendaries. They didn't, but they thought they could. But just imagine, like, if there was a group that was just like, yeah, we're just gonna go around and start murdering trainers. It's something they could do. And one of the things that is going to be very, very important when it comes to, like, actual Pokemon fights is that one of the things that I talked about earlier is the can't escape status. And since the can't escape status is going to be based largely on the range of their abilities, which means you can have up to a 75-foot radius. Like, that is a huge arena, but everybody around the Pokemon are going to be in danger. If they go to use, like, let's say, well, I mean, just to put this in, like, perspective. Over here, anything that says beam in it, so like Hyper Beam, Solar Beam, anything like that, If it says beam in it, it's going to be a line, okay? Now, a line hits everything in that line. And that could be the Pokemon they're targeting, that could be the tree behind the Pokemon they're targeting, that could be the trainer behind the tree behind the Pokemon they're targeting. And if we go by the range up here, that line could be 75 feet long. Positioning is going to be important. And yes, you as a trainer may want to say, okay, I'm throwing my Pokemon out. And now I'm running for cover behind a tree over here because my Pokemon is going to start wrecking things. So, yeah, this is a thing that's going to be, it's going to be a problem. Alden says, I think it's worth mentioning that Legend Z-A sort of does this. Wild Pokemon can opt to attack the trainer instead of the Pokemon, and if the trainer loses all of their health, they faint. Exactly! And now I feel a little bit bad doing this because apparently Pokemon finally got around to it. I'm committed now, I'm not stopping. PCOR says, I think I saw the beginning of it. I think that was Zoids. Either way, you should go back and watch the rest of it. It's a good series. In fact, go back and start watching Chaotic Century. Alden says, once they faint, they end up at the Pokemon Center. It's actually pretty cool. Some trainer battles do this too. The player is immune to their own Pokemon's moves, but I have lost a battle or two to enemy Pokemon hurting me too much. Yes. Okay, so that's exactly what we're doing here. The trainer is a target. However, whether they are a legitimate target or not, that is what needs to be determined. If it is an official Pokemon fight, if we're in a gym or something like that, or if it's anybody who is inside of the Pokemon League, and that does include any potential trainer that you meet on the road who, you know, might have aspirations of being part of the league. Those fights, the trainer will be off limits. Now, accidents can happen, but still off limits. Anyone outside of that, though, and yes, that includes wild Pokemon, yeah. So, you will need to use a little bit of tactical positioning to keep yourself safe while the Pokemon are fighting. Now, this should not be too difficult. In general, like standard NPC behavior, generally speaking, they will go after whatever hurt them. So, if your Pokemon is like too hurt to do anything, and the other Pokemon is still pressuring them, you could say throw a rock. And if the rock actually hurts them, then, well, I mean, there you go. Now you have their attention on you, and this means that you can actually alleviate the pressure from your partner. At the same time, though, if your Pokemon is engaged, and they're fighting, there's really no reason why a wild Pokemon should ever have to come at you. PC, of course, says, oh look, there's a bug on the tree behind the Pokemon that you were targeting. Yes, shoot the bug. Anyway, though, and then we get into things like anything that is all adjacent targets is going to be a cone shape, or no, a radius shape. And so that's like Earthquake. And if you have a Pokemon that has Earthquake, you might want to be very, very careful about where you actually use that. Because again, if we come back here to like an actual map, I believe this radius is 75 feet. No, this is 125 feet. This should cap out at 75, actually. So right here, this Pokemon is using Earthquake at a range of 75 feet. If I put it... No, I don't want to stretch it. If I want to move it into the middle, it is covering the entire arena. And that is including both of the other trainers. It's also including the stands, so we may have to, like... I'm not going to be using this map for Pokemon battles, obviously. But we would need to have, like, larger arenas. Alden says, fun fact, nobody in the anime has ever used the move Earthquake. And the one episode where it did, they never aired. Probably because earthquakes are a sensitive subject in Japan. I was just gonna say that. It's like, I can't imagine why in a place that is literally located on a tectonic fault. Okay, so charging turn is just gonna be per rules. We'll be working on like the finer details of combat at some point. Alright, moving on. Semi-invulnerable turn is exactly what it says. I didn't put that in there because it kind of speaks for itself. It's fine. And then transient conditions. These are conditions that only take effect within the turn they are applied. The main one being flinch. So a flinch status prevents Pokemon from attacking during their turn. And we've already got that written down because that's basically just dazed. However, bracing. The main article here is Endure. When a Pokemon uses Endure, it braces itself so that whenever it takes damage that turn, it will always survive with at least 1 HP. The Focus Sash, Focus Band, and the ability Sturdy all have similar effects. I hate Sturdy. But I at least understand it. Again, I think that Endure doesn't need any further rules. The idea is really simple. You use Endure, and your HP cannot drop below 1. I don't think there's anything else that we have to worry about here. Bracing per rules. There we go. PC says in a Coliseum battle, Gyarados uses Hyper Beam. The stadium would like to remind the friends and relatives of those in what was formerly Section G, there are no refunds. I want to make a joke, but that's literally potentially a problem. I imagine that Pokemon battles would have to be made in like this huge arena, and there would have to be like, you know how when you go to a hockey game, they have the great big plexiglass walls around the entire rink to prevent pucks and sticks and people from being thrown into the crowds? Yeah, I have to imagine that's got to be what Pokemon battles are like. It's not going to be like this great big airy, space. It's going to be like this cage match so that none of their moves actually get thrown out into the crowd. It's like the only way to do it. Either that, or if you've ever seen like a stadium, like a track and field stadium, if you've ever seen like a track and field stadium, you have the bleachers, and then around the outside of the inner area, you have like the track, and then you have the inner green area. Well, the inner green area would have to be like where the actual Pokemon battle is, because you're going to need that buffer zone around everything. And Alden says, well, I mean, it should be. The anime or the games never think about it. Well, it's because they don't have to. But I'm reminded of Dragon Ball Z. Now, why am I reminded of Dragon Ball Z? I'm reminded of Dragon Ball Z because in the Boo Saga, okay, and if you don't know what that is, that's just the entire arc where they were fighting against a bad guy named Majin Buu. At the beginning of it, the character of Vegeta, and I'm sure that everybody knows who Vegeta is at this point. If you don't, I questioned why you're here in this stream. Like, I'm way outside of your wheelhouse. Anyway, though, they're at a tournament, and Vegeta and Goku are gonna fight, and Goku's like, I don't want to fight you, okay? I don't want to do this. Alden says, you mean Majin Buu? Yes, Majin Buu. I'm not talking about Majin Buu, though. We're talking about Goku and Vegeta at the martial arts tournament. Vegeta wants to fight Goku. Goku's like, I really don't want to fight you, though, okay? And Vegeta's like, well, I'm not giving you an option. At which point, like I said, if you're familiar at all with Dragon Ball Z, you know that these people can basically destroy planets. So Vegeta simply looks at Goku, lifts up his arm, and points his hand to the side towards the bleachers. And Goku's like, what are you doing? And then he charges an energy blast, and Goku's like, don't even. At which point, Vegeta then proceeds to blow out an entire section of the arena. And just straight up murder everybody that was over there. And, you know, it's basically his moral event horizon moment. It's like, hey, by the way, remember Vegeta's evil? Because Vegeta is evil. Let's show you how evil Vegeta is. Because he never stopped being evil. The point is that he basically, he blows out the entire section of the stadium and leaves it, you know, just scorched earth and rubble. There are concerns that, you know, a solar beam or a hyper beam or something like that would do the same thing. And PC says, just surround the area with Mr. Mimes making walls. Wait, would that work? Hold the... Would that work? No, seriously. Wait, isn't the thing about Mr. Mime the fact that everything that they mime is at least semi-real? Hold on. Hold on a second. I gotta try and look this up. I mean, we're almost done anyway. I can spare a minute to look this up. Mr. Mime. Mime Jr. leveled up at pure psychic type, unless it's the Galar one, in which case it's an ice psychic. Okay, but we need to get like into the details. So, Mr. Mime is a bipedal humanoid Pokemon with blue growths resembling clown hair, which extend from the sides of a pink head, and there's a magenta circle on each cheek. The jaw is curved inward, resembling a mouth of a wooden dummy. It has a round, white body. Yes, yes, yes. From birth, this Pokemon is an excellent pantomime. As it matures, it gains the ability to solidify air molecules by vibrating its fingertips. This ability allows it to create invisible objects with its gestures. This would work. Oh my god, this would work. PC, you're a genius. This would absolutely work. You could simply have Mr. Mimes around the arena creating barriers that, in theory, should stop, hopefully, whatever gets thrown out. Oh my goodness. JP says, rabbit hole has been engaged. You have no idea. That is... That is... Wow. If that's the case, like, can you imagine? Can you imagine what a Mr. Mime should be capable of, just like in general? I mean, we've talked a little bit about what Pokemon should be able to do outside of battle, because Pokemon, so much emphasis placed on battle, you don't necessarily look at what they can do outside of battle. We've already talked about, like, ghost types being able to go through walls, so that you could send a ghost type, like a Haunter, through a door and have it unlock the door from the other side. But now we get into something like Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime can literally pantomime anything and have it be real. So, like, do you need a ladder? Mr. Mime could pantomime making a ladder, and then you would be able to climb up said ladder. Like, the limits to what Mr. Mime can do are literally the limits of your imagination. The more creative you are, the more powerful Mr. Mime gets. That's... JP says, Mr. Mime Platoon is the stuff of nightmares. You have no idea. A sufficiently creative person with a Mr. Mime or even multiple Mr. Mimes could be very well unstoppable. It also means that that scene in Detective Pikachu is also weirdly appropriate. Because, I mean, I guess they actually can make this stuff. That is... Wow! That is wild. Okay, clearly I did not give Mr. Mime nearly enough credit. Alright, I need to finish this up. Because I could sit here and talk about Pokemon for, like, a long time. But we only have, like, 3 left, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 left. Let's get these last 3 done. Then we don't have to worry about this again. Center of attention. If a Pokemon is in the center of attention, its opponents are forced to target the center of attention rather than their intended target. Okay, so... When did this even come out? Okay, so basically you're just going to draw attention to yourself. So, the center of attention cannot draw moves with a charging turn, such as Skydrop or Solar Beam, during the turn they are charging. These moves can only be redirected during the attacking turn. Okay, so if it's charging, then you can use center of attention, and it will fire at you instead. This only really works in, like, team battles, because in, like, a normal battle, there's only one target. Still, though, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Let's see, JP says, can Mr. Mime put an opponent in an invisible box? I mean, technically speaking, it would need to be able to actually build the box, but... yeah, technically yes, it could. If you stand there long enough for Mr. Mime to put you in a box, then yeah. I guess then we would have to say, well, what does it take to build a box? How long would it take? It would get very complicated. To be honest, a Mr. Mime is going to be a DM's nightmare. Because so very much of everything a Mr. Mime is going to do is going to be up to GM Fiat. It is literally going to be a matter of, I want to put my opponent in a box, and the DM, GM, whatever, is going to have to sit there and say, okay, can you? Like, is putting them in a box a single action? Is it a multi-action? What is it? Because if you had to, like, build the box around your target, that would take time. But what if you have the Mr. Mime who's just, like, standing over here on his own, putting something together? And then you're like, well, what's Mr. Mime doing? I don't know. Mr. Mime picks it up, lifts it up over their head, runs towards you, jumps and slams it down over top of you. And you're like, I don't get it. What's going on? And then you try to move, and it turns out you're in a box. It's really, really going to be a matter of, how do you role play it? How realistic is it? Can you explain it? If you can explain it, you can probably do it. Let's see. PC says, when you think about it, if Mr. Mime is terrifying, it imagines the Trinity test, Bye Bye City. What is the Trinity test? I feel like I should know what that is. I don't know what that is. All it says, it's really just a matter of the fact that Mr. Mime has never been seen making anything other than invisible or semi-visible barriers. Well, you're right. But the point is that anything that it can imagine, it can do. And let's not forget, Mr. Mime is a psychic type, okay? Psychic fairy, actually. So it is not just what Mr. Mime can imagine. Mr. Mime is psychic. It's whatever Mr. Mime can imagine, or whatever you can imagine, or hell, even whatever somebody else can imagine. Because just like Mr. Mime can put up a barrier on its own, or Mr. Mime can raid your mind and figure out what tools you need, Mr. Mime could also reach into somebody else's mind and decide to fabricate their deepest fears. Now, I don't know if pantomiming a snake to somebody who is afraid of snakes is going to necessarily work, but at the same time, I don't really want to find out either. We're bordering on war crimes here. So, yeah. Alright, center of attention is just redirecting. This is fine. This is per rules. Magic Coat. What is Magic Coat? Let's find out. Magic Coat. A Pokemon is shrouded with a Magic Coat that will reflect most status moves used against it, or its side of the field, back at the user during the duration of the move. The ability Magic Bounce reflects the same moves. Okay. Again, this one seems pretty easy. Just, it reflects status moves. Does it even change over time? Gen 3. In a double battle, reflectable moves. If a reflectable move targets both Pokemon on one side, then the leftmost Pokemon is protected by Magic Coat. And if only the right... Or it will... the allied... Neither it nor its ally will take damage, and the move will be reflected against both opponents. If only the rightmost Pokemon is protected by Magic Coat, the ally will take the damage first, and then the move will be reflected. That's in this generation only, though. And if we come all the way down to Generation 9, Magic Coat cannot be selected in battle. They've removed it. Which is weird. I wonder why. I'm not sure why they would remove it. But they did. I mean, looks like it had a very long list of things that it could work on. But it's gone now, so unfortunately nothing for us to do there. Alright, last one. Protection. A Pokemon will be unaffected by physical, special, and or status moves during one turn depending on the protection move used. And so, protection moves. Baleful Bunker, Burning Bulwark, Detect, King Shield, Max Guard, Obstruct, Protect, Silk Trap, and Spiky Shield. And Protect is literally just like all moves. Oh, so is Max Guard. So is Detect. So is that Baleful Bunker. Moves to protect your side of the field. Crafty Shield, Max Block, Quick Guard, and Wide Guard. Again, every single one of these moves already has all of their rules written out. There's nothing that we really need to do here. This one's simple. Per rules. Done. Alright. And that's the end of the list. But not the end of the page. But I don't think I had to do anything with these. So, Might. These are 2 unique conditions in Pokemon Legends Arceus, so we're going to skip that regardless. Display. Pokemon status shown in several different places. Don't need to worry about that. That's just, where you actually find it. And then spin-off games. The Mystery Dungeon, Conquest, Shuffle, things that we don't need to worry about. So, we're not going to. Okay, then. We're done. That's it. Conditions are done. Finally. Took far longer than it should have. But it's okay. We're done. So, we have a full list that should be able to adapt every single move, or at least what every single move does into our game. Now, when we go through and we make all the moves, we know exactly what's going to happen. So, when we look at these, we can say that Defense Curl is plus defense. And if we look at the Defense Curl, I believe it's like plus 1 defense. Maybe it's plus 2. Either way, we could say it's plus defense. Plus defense is going to increase your kinetic armor class. It's also going to increase your defense, which will increase your damage resistance versus, physical moves. This could be cleaned up a little bit, but it'll be fine. As a matter of fact, I can do both of these at the same time by making it so that a Pokemon's armor class is based off of their wisdom instead of their dexterity, like normal. Which I think we'll do. I think we'll do that, actually. So, armor class is going to be dex bonus? Not anymore. It's going to be wisdom bonus. There we go. And just like that, we can now make that work for us. But like rollout, we've already got the rules for this. It's going to lock you into it because it's a rolling move. Headbutt has flinch. Flinch is just a daze. Taunt is going to block any status moves that they have. Super simple. I like it. It works. Alright, so that now begs the question of what are we going to do next? Alright, so coming back here. We did stat conversions. We didn't do trait conversions. Is that something that we need to worry about? Because they're not traits, they're abilities, I believe. I think. This is a mechanic introduced in Gen 3 that provides a passive effect in battle or in the overworld. Individual Pokemon may only have one ability at a time. Prior to Gen 6, an ability could not be changed after a Pokemon was obtained, except by evolution. where it is determined by their form ability and form change. So there should be a lot of abilities. Yep, here they are. So there are a ton of abilities, and frankly, I don't think that we need to do anything with this at all, because all of these are pretty well self-explanatory. There's 310 of them, but if I look at some of them, like Perish Body. When hit by a move that makes direct contact, the Pokemon and the attacker will faint after 3 turns unless they switch out of the battle. There's nothing for me to convert there. That's how it works. If I try another one, Symbiosis. The Pokemon passes its held item to an ally that has used up an item. Alright, again, super simple. Don't need to worry about it. Hydration. Cures a Pokemon's status conditions in rain. So if it happens to be raining, their status conditions all go away. Water Veil. The Pokemon's Water Veil prevents it from being burned. Again, really simple. Immune to being set on fire. There's nothing we need to do for these. So, map system then. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Move sets, we did damage and power, we did properties. So, I guess the next thing that we need to work on is going to be the capture system. So I'll need to work on a system where we can actually have Pokeballs, which should be simple. I don't have to explain how Pokeballs are made. We just need to have them. The real question is going to be, we'll have to make an explanation for how is the capture system going to work. And then we'll need to do something for what every ball does. Because there are a lot of different Pokeballs. And it shouldn't be too hard, I don't think. It shouldn't be too hard. Because most of these are just pretty straightforward. We'll just need to figure out, like, number one, how far can you throw a Pokeball? And I have a couple of thoughts on that, which we'll have to get into more in the next game. But, like, thrown items usually have a default range of 10 feet. Which isn't much. If I come here to equipment and weapons, if we look at things like throwing knives, yeah, a dagger has a throwing range of 10 feet. Now, interestingly, one of the things that's not well explained, and yes, JP, I will check the Discord in just a moment. One of the things that's not explained well in Dungeons & Dragons, all this, is that this is not a maximum range, this is a range increment. Ooh, and Alden says, oh, what about friendship? That's a good one. Let me add that to the list. Friendship. We'll need a friendship mechanic too. Anyway, Alden says it affects evolutions for some Pokemon. You're right about that. Speaking of evolutions, I'm going to put evolution quirks down because some evolutions are weird. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do about trading Pokemon yet. It should be really simple. You just give it to somebody else. I don't know. Anyway, though, ranges. These are range increments. usually you take a -2 penalty for every increment beyond the first. So if you're throwing a dagger and you've got a +4 on for your attack, your ranged attack, at 10 feet, you throw the knife and you get to add a +4 to your throw. At 20 feet, it's only a +2. At 30 feet, it's a +0. And then after that, I believe you take penalties, and I believe thrown weapons have a maximum range of 5 increments, but I could be wrong on that. I would have to look into actual weapon rules. If it's in here. So melee and ranged weapons. Here we go. Ranged weapon, or that's a reach weapon. Thrown weapons. Here we go. So the wielder applies their strength modifier to the damage dealt by a thrown weapon. It is possible to throw a weapon that isn't designed to be thrown. That is, a melee weapon doesn't have a range in it. At a -4 on their attack roll. Throwing a one-handed weapon is a standard action, while throwing a two-handed weapon is a full round action. Regardless of the type of weapon, such an attack scores a threat only at a natural 20 and deals double damage on a critical hit. Such a weapon has a range increment of 10 feet, which I just said. What I want, though, is... Let's see. Here we go. Range. An attack of more than this distance is penalized for range. Beyond this range, the attack takes a cumulative -2 penalty for each full range increment. For example, a dagger with a range of 10 feet can be thrown at a target that is 25 feet away. It would incur a -4 penalty. A thrown weapon has a maximum range of 5 range increments. Projectiles a maximum range of 10 increments. So when we're looking at like a dagger will have a maximum range of 50 feet. Which I gotta tell you, anybody who's ever gone throwing knives before, which I have, I'm not great at it, but I've done it, and I've even stuck a few of them, a 50-foot throw is a long throw. It also, however, means that when we're looking at like this crossbow down here, a heavy crossbow has a range increment of 120 feet. However, it is a projectile weapon, which means that its maximum range is 10 times that. The maximum range for a crossbow is going to be 1,200 feet. Which, while I don't have the number in front of me because miles are a weird number in feet, that's like a quarter mile. Give or take. It's huge. That means that essentially if you were going to throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon, you're going to have to get pretty close to it. And that means that you might want to actually wait until it's been rendered unconscious before you actually try to get that close to it. Either that or get really, really good at throwing things. So yeah, we'll do that. Alden says you could maybe ask your friendly NPCs a favor. I don't know what we're going to do yet. However, Presberky says Inkay, alright. The weirdest evolution method. Let me go look at that. This will be like the last thing we do today. I think we looked at this before, but I don't remember, so I'm going to look at it. Alright. So, it evolves into Malamar starting at level 30 when leveled up while the game system is held upside down, or if playing on the Nintendo Switch 2 while the Joy-Con controllers are attached to the console upside down. I don't have an answer for this one yet, okay? I will figure something out. But that's what I said. There's going to be some weird Pokemon in here that I'm going to need to deal with, and I don't have a solution yet. I will work on it. We will get there. So that's what I think we're going to do. I think next time we will do Pokeballs and catching. Afterwards, I have held items here, but I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on held items. Most of them should be self-explanatory. Oh god. And Alden says, there's also Ursa Luna, which requires a full moon, so now we have to consider moon phases. I have to keep track of moon phases! I don't want to have to keep track of moon phases. Okay, well, we will deal with that. Honestly, though, moon phases should just be a roll 1d28, honestly. And on a 28, it levels up. Honestly, that's the best way to do it. It's a 1d28. I'm not even going to think about that one. I'm not tracking the moon phases. Okay? I'm not doing it. Roll 1d28. On a 28, you get to evolve. And if it takes a really, really long time for it to evolve, that's not my fault. It took a really, really long time for a 28 or for the full moon to get here. Nobody ever said that Pokemon happened on Earth. Maybe it's a really, really wide orbit. JP says there's a spreadsheet for that. Yes, I know there's a spreadsheet for that, but I'm still the one that has to keep track of it. It honestly would not be that hard. I mean, it's just make 4 rows with 7 spaces in each column. At the end of each one is just new moon, half moon, full moon, second half moon, new moon. But then I really have to keep track of where my players are in the month. It would be a pain. Like you guys have no idea what my my workbook looks like for the Star Trek B Team game. Which again, if you want to play with us in the B Team, you can do that. However, I wonder actually. I wonder. Hold on. Recent documents. Let me open this up. I'm not going to give away anything that that's important to my actual players because I have players that are currently in the stream. But I can show off the travel archive. And so let me shrink this down a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. If I come over here, and switch over to this. Okay, here we go. This is the travel log for my players. And so this is everything that I've been keeping track of, and you'll see how it's grown over time, because it started off where we were just traveling. I didn't even make them keep track of food for a while. But we traveled, I kept track of the distance they were traveling, and over time, things had to expand. I had to keep track of exactly what speed they were traveling. I had to keep track of the food because they almost ran out of food at one point, which I thought was kind of funny. And then they started to hire on new crew members, so crew member paydays had to be kept track of. They made contact with new factions, and they had to, or I had to keep track of exactly what they were doing with the new factions. They also began investing in the stock market, which I had to keep track of those investments as well. And so now we're talking about adding even more stuff to a list like this because, well, I don't have to keep track of, all the light years where they're traveling. I have to add a 28-day counter for the moon. It's a lot. It's a lot. I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy running my games, and I'm very good at what I do. But it's a lot to keep track of. So yeah, if I need to keep track of the moon for the Ursa Luna, I will. As far as the Inke goes, I don't know, stand on your head. Do a handstand. We'll figure it out. At any rate, though, I'm out of time. I got things that I desperately need to get to, though. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say goodbye here. We're finally done with conditions, though. Finally. It's finally done. Turns out we're done with the conditions. Mr. Mime is terrifying. We did a lot of things. So, yeah, that's it. When we get back here, we'll pick something else. We'll pick something else. Oh, and check on my messages before we go. Discord. Where is it at? Where's it at? Okay, it's not a one-shot, so that's not really an option. Unfortunately. That does not preclude people from joining, though. So, because Halloween is coming up, I'm going to be doing a Halloween special for my players in the B team. Now, because of the way things worked out, we didn't have a game last Friday, 2 days ago. And because I have kids that I need to take out trick-or-treating, not going to have a game on Halloween, which means that we're not going to actually get to the Halloween game until November 7. Okay, November 7 is when we should be getting to the Halloween game. Maybe. No, we probably won't actually, because November 7 is going to be continuing on the current space station that we're on. So we may not get to the Halloween game until like the 14th. Look, best laid plans of mice and men, okay? It was a great idea at the time. However, anybody who wants to join, if they're joining the game, will be able to participate in that game. For the B team, we play every Friday, ideally, at roughly 5 o'clock Eastern Time US. So if that is a time that is suitable for you, then you are more than willing to join the game. And I will just go ahead and put that in the chat real quick. So the B team is going to be Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time US. And so that's when we play. If that works for you, if you're interested in a Star Trek game, then if you have the availability and the ability to be there, consistently, you are welcome to join. We are always looking for new players. And Star Trek knowledge is not a requirement. If you are experienced, if you are knowledgeable of Star Trek, that's great. If you are not, don't worry about it. This does not require you to have an encyclopedia knowledge of everything Star Trek. In fact, several of our players only have a tangential knowledge of it. But they learn every day, and they're getting good at it. So, if that's something that interests you, feel free to join us. And with that, if you're enjoying this stream, you want to see more things like it, then subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that we get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into tabletop gaming or Pokemon, share the stream out. If you like what I'm doing here, you just like what's going on, leave a like on the video. You leave a comment down below. However, if you're going to leave a comment down below, again, join the Discord. You join the Discord, you can spend time with us. We're great over there, okay? I mean, I'm always great, not going to lie, I'm humble like that. But I'm great, so is everybody else there. In fact, they're usually better than I am. So, do that, but if you want to play with us, you have to go to the behind the screen channel, and that's like what I'm talking about here. You let me know what your availability is, and what game you want to play. As soon as I have enough players, I will go ahead and get that game started. And if you want to join the B team, you can. I have no problem integrating new players into the story. Do not worry about it. This is my specialty. I am an improvisational GM. Okay? My lore might not be as deep as some other people, but I am absolutely fantastic at writing adaptive stories. And that means that I can adapt your character in there no problem. So if you're interested, come join us. Come join the B team or whatever other game you want to. Otherwise, though, I hope you will join me next week for more Pokemon. And until then, take care.